Before we get on with today's podcast, here's a special announcement for our podcast listeners. From time to time, you hear Steve Peasley talking about portfolio checkups in locations in the San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, and Orange County, and that kind of leaves you out if you live in Orange County, Florida. Well, don't feel left out. If you would like to take Steve up on his offer to look over your portfolio and give you a health scan, it can be done on the phone. You can send copies of your documents by fax, email, or regular mail, and join Steve for a one-on-one conference call. If you're interested, just go to investtalk.com or call our 24-hour InvestTalk answer line at 888-99-CHART. That's 888-992-4278. And thanks for listening to InvestTalk. This is Invest Talk, an hour dedicated to making you financially independent for your retirement. Invest Talk is a two-way conversation. It's questions and answers and ideas for reducing risk and finding opportunities to make your money grow. And now, here's your host, registered investment advisor, Steve Peasley.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Invest Talk. This is the Friday edition, November 21st, Friday. So we welcome everybody to the program, including all our podcasters and the radio listeners. Today I have with me registered investment advisor Helen Crawford. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Steve. It's good to be here.
And she'll help me pull up charts. And we have a few computer screens in front of us. It always is nice to have someone pulling up using some of the keyboards to help me do all this. So that's really helpful. Now, Invest Talk is a time of calm in the center of the storm that we're having. Okay, why in the world did the market move up, close to 500 points today? Well, I'll ask you this question. Why did it move down 400 points yesterday and 400 points the day before? There's no really reason except fear and greed. There's no fundamental reason. There was nothing that's really anything dramatic than 3 days ago, 4 days ago. So again, on the market on a short-term basis is can do whatever it wants to do. It's crazy. Okay, long-term it's about earnings, but short-term it's crazy. So we're the calm in the center of the storm. If you have any questions, that's what we're here for. Real estate, banking, recession, earnings, stocks that you want to talk about, mutual funds, ETFs, bonds. How about talking about the bailout for the auto industry? Should we do that? Should we not? What would be best? I don't know. What do you think? We don't know either. Believe me, we have our opinions, but we don't know. What cracks me up is that those pundits out there that act like they know what it is all about. They have all the answers when no one has all the answers. You can spout off what you think. You can relate as to what happened in history, but you can't predict the future. No one knows that. Now, so let's talk about strategy. Every situation is different. We're in a different situation right now than we've been in many, many years. No one alive today, well, I won't say that. No one alive today, maybe when they were adult in the working force, probably went through the Great Depression. Or, not too many people, because you'd be in your 90s to 100 years old at this point.
That's right, yes.
70. So if you're an adult, let's say you're 25 and the Great Depression started, that's 95 or 100 years old. So maybe when you're a kid, but not as an adult and knowing what was happening and what was going on. So no one right now has any idea. And Helen, I was thinking about this. Since we haven't had a real recession in over 20 years, except for that little dot-com bubble thing, that means all traders on the floor, almost all of them, they have never seen this. Because if it's 20 years ago, they started working in their 20s, right? So they've never dealt in college. Maybe they saw it, but they haven't dealt it in real world life. So now they're in their 40s, and now they're dealing with it.
Well, so imagine then when they're out there on the floor trying to trade, how they're feeling when they're seeing it go down.
They have no idea. They have never dealt with this before. This is crazy. Kind of interesting, I think. It's just kind of, because we haven't been in this kind of recession. What I also find is everybody thinks the world is crashing and coming down to a halt, and we're just falling apart.
Well, I don't think, Steve, myself, it's necessarily a crash. I think it's a real big realignment, a readjustment all globally.
That's what I think too. It's just a matter we're going to wring out all this excess of leverage where everybody in the world is borrowing way too much money, and that is quickly being wrung out of the system, which is a good thing.
I think so too, because remember too, we've got a lot more interaction out there, and it's getting on with everybody out there in the world trading.
Yeah, not just the
money
U.S.,
flow.
the whole global. So let's talk about that strategy. Let's talk about what your situation is. How old are you? What's your life situation, your temperament? How much fear are you dealing with? So let's hear your questions. If you'd like to get in on the conversation about what we're thinking about what's going on in the economy and what we think will happen, what's going to happen to the auto industry, sooner or later something's going to happen. And I have definite opinions about that, by the way. I've been thinking about and struggling with this, what they should do, and my conclusion is they should just let them file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I hate to say that, but we can't bail out everybody. We can't. So you've got to draw a line somewhere, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, and I have to agree there, Steve. I know in Europe and in England back in the 70s and the 80s, what they did was they gave a lot of people in their 50s early retirement. They paid them off, and a lot of people lost their jobs then. But they kept on rehiring. They rehired at cheaper rates with different contracts, no pension or anything. And finally it started to tick over. People reinvented themselves, they got retrained, and it was tough. It was tough.
And I think that we'll have to go through the same kind of gut-wrenching thing. Our government is trying to make the pain go away. You can't. We got to have the pain. We got to go through the pain. Government can't fix everything. Since when do we as Americans believe that the government takes care of everything? That's not something we as a society have ever believed in. We've always believed in the individual, the entrepreneurship, the person who can make it out there if just given the freedom, the education to do so, that he could do it. Now we're all turning to the government like they're going to give you all the answers. This worries me greatly. They don't have the answers. If you don't believe me, look at the European model. They've had chronic unemployment of 10% forever. Why? Because they think government can take care of everything, and it can't.
But I think also in Europe, though, Steve, they're also saying don't do anything irrational with bailing out their car manufacturers over there.
They probably learned that harsh lesson
a long time ago.
Yeah, because they really had years and years of struggle.
And unions and...
Yep. Remember, they're still in France. Everybody's in a union in France. Remember that sometimes the whole country goes on strike for a day just because they don't like something. It amazes me. Now, let's get back to business. Our first order of business is answering your questions. I invite you to get on the line if you can. 888-99-CHART is where you can go to get your questions or comments answered. 888-992-4278. Let's summarize what happened in the market today. It was very interesting. The market was pretty much down all day, not tremendously, but kind of on a down bent, trying to struggle to be positive until about the last hour. Almost exactly.
That's right, and the good bit of news that I think sparked the rally at the end there, Steve, was the President-elect Obama naming the New York Federal Reserve President Timothy, how do you pronounce his surname?
I don't remember.